Hello, I am making a Parmesan crusted chicken breast. I like this meal because it's a quick and easy, light, healthier, somewhat with the Parmesan cheese on top of it, but we're kind of frying it, so I guess it's not too healthy. But it is kind of simple too. It's not anything too complicated, and it's quick. You just have to get a workstation ready and prepped and everything. Here's fresh ground Parmesan cheese. I have about, let's say, 6 to 8 cups of Parmesan here. And then I have my chicken breast. I had the butcher clean it up nicely for me. And they're all seasoned with just black pepper, fresh ground black pepper. That's all it is going to be, because the saltiness from the cheese is plenty enough. So you can see I salted it with coarse ground fresh black pepper. And you don't want to add salt, and because the cheese is going to be salty enough. And then it's going to be paired with a potato and peppers and onion roasted that are in the oven. And then with also it's going to be topped with a fresh tomato and basil little salsa relish on top. So it's very simple, light tasting dish, and of course you can do this all to your own liking. You can add herbs to this. I have done that before. You can do a breadcrumbs, but that's more like a breading. But for this specific time, I'm going to do the simple way. And so what I have is I lined a cookie sheet with wax paper, and like I said, I have 6 to 8 cups of fresh shredded. You don't want grated, you want shredded, because you are going to coat the chicken breast with this. And then a hot pan on about medium high. I actually have mine at a number 5 right now, maybe between even a 5 and 6, but you don't want it too hot and burn. And then we're going to add extra virgin olive oil, just about a few tablespoons. You don't want it greasy, and you don't want to fry the chicken breast. You want it to be just coated nicely so it doesn't stick to the pan. And I'm using a non-stick pan as well because of the cheese. And so you want to get this hot. You want to get your workstation ready and your pans when you're done. So this is for 2 clients, 3 people. Actually, sorry, it's actually for 3 clients. So I have about 1 is for 3 people and 2 are for 2. So the one for 3 people, they'll get about 4 chicken breast, and then the ones that are for 2, they get 3. So, you know, I have 5, 6, 7 breasts in here. And then after that, I'm gonna put it in my to-go containers for them, my foil pans, and then they'll be ready to go. So it's really a quick weeknight meal and a lighter meal and tasty, especially with fresh herbs and tomatoes now in the summer season. But again, you want to be careful you don't putting it a little lower because it's been on for a little bit. You don't want to over season it, over complicate it. You want it to keep it fresh, light, simple, and it's really not terribly unhealthy. You just have to watch the amount of oil and salt you put. And so just kind of gauge what you like. You can, like I said, you can add fresh herbs. You can actually mix this with fresh Asiago cheese as well, and you know, toss it up together. So I mean, it's just really up to you. All right, so now we're going to put in from the hot pan here a few tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And you know the pan is hot when the oil does not stay in its place. It kind of runs to the middle. So you just do a quick roll of it. And if you need more, I would actually put more now in between batches. Okay, so the first chicken breast I'm gonna do is you're gonna coat it very lightly, and you're gonna press it in lightly, but you want a good press. So I'm gonna put a few here at a time. I'm using a larger pan just so I can put a few. So maybe 3 or 4, just depends on the size of your chicken breast. So I'll grab a small one here. and then we'll just kind of go on from there. So you're gonna kind of just push it in here on all sides, put on, you're gonna press the cheese down gently but firmly at the same time, and on all the sides, and coat it. And normally you dry the chicken breast, but this time you don't want it to be dry because you want the cheese to stick. So, and literally what I'm going to do, gently, quickly, you can hear that, and do not move it. Let it be here on the hot pan for about 7 to 8 minutes. And I'm going to do that with all the chicken. Press it in there. Gently, quickly transfer it over. Actually, these are a little bigger, so these are only going to get 2 breasts in a pan. You can use a larger skillet, but I just grabbed this one. And you want to keep it like that. And it's going to form a nice crust. And it looks like it has spread, and it did. But it's going to form a really good crust. And then you're going to flip it over carefully, and it's going to, you know, form another crust. But so this cheese on top will melt slightly, so some of it should stick to the chicken on top before you flip it over. So I'm just going to finish these up. I'll do a little bit, another one though. I'll finish these up, and then we'll go on to the next step. So I'm going to wait about, like I said, 7, 8 minutes, 6, 7, 8 minutes, depends how hot your pan is. I don't want mine to be too hot. I want the chicken to cook through, and you can actually see the cheese in the chicken already a little bit cooking through right here. And so that's a good thing. And then we're going to take the spatula though, and we are going to gently flip the chicken over. And I like to use gloves. You're noticing I'm wearing gloves. I love to use gloves when I'm dealing with raw meat, raw seafood, just sanitary reasons, and it's just easier. Then I can take off my gloves, and if I have to touch my pan, touch a spatula, some oil, the can, you know, the bottle, and it does not get cross-contaminated. So, all right, I will get back to you after about 7 minutes, and we will look at the chicken and go on from there. Okay, it's been about 7 minutes, actually just now 8. I'm just looking at the timer, and watch you get splattered on and everything. You don't want the cheese to burn. You want a nice golden crust. So carefully use a spatula, and use 2 if you have to kind of get it to flip over. And you can see this beautiful crust. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it sounds awesome. A nice crust. Watch you don't get splattered on. You know, sometimes the cheese can get, it'll come off melted, like I said, but just use another. You can always add more. Use another spatula to help you. Carefully. And you don't want to really move it too much. So now, we're going to let it go on about 7 to 8 minutes again. And I just want you to hear this. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it's a nice crust, and you can just tell, look at the color. Beautiful. So we'll do that, and when the 7 minutes is up, or 8 for this, I'm going to transfer them into my pans for my clients, and then I'll show you one more time to put them in the pan, and after that I'm just going to finish off the chicken myself, and then I will get back to you. And in between, when you add more chicken, if you see that there's too much cheese in the pan, just carefully take that out with some tongs or fork, very carefully, And I suggest you take it off the heat quickly and maybe wipe off the pan and add more oil. Just be careful getting splattered and everything. So, all right, I will get back to you in 7 to 8 minutes. Okay, it's been about 7, 8 minutes, and you'll see the color of the chicken is beautiful, and the chicken is done. You want to make sure that it is 165. So, it's gorgeous. Just, it matches the top of the other one. So, you can see that some of the chicken, sometimes the cheese will form to the shape of the chicken. It'll just melt down beautifully. So we're going to transfer this one. This one didn't quite form that way, but that's quite all right. But you'll see that sometimes they will do that. I have room for one more here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is kind of scrape this off. And then use my tongue to kind of clean it off. Put it in a bowl. Okay. Now, I'm just going to put this hot oil in a container here and add fresh oil. Okay, a little time. Now we're going to do the other pieces here. So I'm just going to show you one more time here, like I said I would. And just top your chicken with the cheese. Press it on gently, but pretty hard so it sticks. And you just want to carefully, quickly flip it over. And you want to flip it over, the key is the cheese will fall onto the pan. And so you kind of want to flip it over where the cheese falls as you flip it onto there. That way it stays onto the chicken and forms a crust and doesn't form a crust by itself somewhere in the pan. So then now we're going to do this one. And then you see them topping the inside, which once it gets on the pan, top it a little bit with cheese and press it down there, because that will slowly melt and it'll be easier to flip. So then this will be another 7 minutes to 8 on this side, and then I'm going to flip it over another 7 to 8 minutes, and then I'm going to keep putting them in the pan. And so when I am finished, I will get back to you. I'm going to finish all of that up, and if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or, questions about this, please let me know. Like I said, it really is a light tasting dish. Even though this is fried on the stove, like a light fry, not a deep fry, it still is very good and refreshing because you get that tomato and basil relish on top. And so it's really easy for a quick night meal. And also you can actually do this ahead of time, put it in the freezer, and pop it in the oven at about 400, just for about, I suggest probably, I'm not sure exactly, about maybe 8 minutes, just so your chicken doesn't, the cheese that you have, seared here on the pan, just so it's not soggy and it's crisp again. But you don't want the chicken to get any more browner, the cheese. So let's just start out with 6 to 8 minutes, and you can kind of gauge it from there. And yeah, it's really a quick weeknight meal, and it's a good alternative to even breading your chicken. So it looks burnt, but it's not. It's a nice Parmesan crust. So, okay, and I will get back to you. Thank you. Okay, so for the topping of the chicken, we are going to make a kind of like a relish bruschetta, but without the bread and the garlic, or even like a little mini salsa with just fresh chopped basil. I have about 30 to 35 leaves of fresh chopped basil, and then we're gonna also use, I've been cutting, let me show you here, I've been cutting about maybe even 8 Roma tomatoes in here and into just smaller pieces of dice. You know, it doesn't need to be tiny because it is going on top of chicken. So it doesn't need to be as small as it would be for salsa or as a bruschetta. So then I just want to show you, we are using beautiful Roma tomatoes. They are a much firmer tomato. You don't want to use, I mean you can, but you don't want to use a juicy tomato because you're not going to get much texture, flesh, too much juice, not enough tomato. So what I've been doing is just cutting off the stems, the pit here, and dicing it up. So also I want to talk a little bit more about this. You can also use little grape tomatoes. Those are really good. You can just cut those in half, even though they're really juicy, but they're very colorful. But you don't really want to use a juicy tomato. Romas are perfect because they are less juicy, and you can scoop out the seeds if you want. 99%, actually I should say 90% of the time, I do take out the seeds. But I decided not to this time. So I'm just going to show you kind of what I did. You know, take out the stem. And you know, I'm using my serrated knife that I love for tomatoes. And I'm just going to quickly show you what I did here. And you just try to cut it into even pieces. So then it's so simple, you'll see, and so refreshing. It's kind of breaks away from the frying the chicken breast in a way, you know. You get this on top, and it's so light, refreshing. I can actually just eat a whole bowl of tomatoes and basil. It's really good. It's really refreshing. So that's that, and then I'm gonna just show you, all you need to do is sprinkle some black pepper. And I want to tell you a little tip. Always grind your own. Oh my, it tastes so much better when you grind your own. You can grind your coarseness, how much you want. I mean, really, that's just the key. Fresh is best. Salt. You don't need too much at first. And the salt will help draw out the liquid from the tomatoes as well. And then it's gonna kind of create its own juice. It's really good and refreshing. And a ton of basil. Let's mix this up first and kind of look to see how it looks. We could also put a few more tomatoes in here. I might do that. Finish this one here. Just a few. Just look how nicely this serrated knife just goes through the tomatoes. It's just amazing. It really lightens up the dish as well because you're roasting the potatoes, you're roasting the peppers with the potatoes and the onions, and you kind of fried the chicken on top of the stove with the cheese to form a really nice crust in place of like kind of bread crumbs. And then you just pour this onto the chicken, and it's really colorful dish, and it adds a refreshing aftertaste. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep wiping the board here. Just get the tomato to the side here. All right. Now let's toss this up and see. It's really, this even is a good salad. Add some onions in there. Obviously garlic, that would be like a bruschetta. Lettuce would be really good in here. Arugula, a little peppery bite of arugula. Spinach, even a kale. Quinoa salad, ooh, that's a good idea too. All right, I'm gonna put the rest of the basil on. To me, you can never have enough basil. It is one of my favorite herbs. One of my favorite. It is so fresh tasting. Now I'm going to taste it. It's actually perfect, 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 perfect. I actually don't need to do anything else. And the longer it sits, the liquid from the tomatoes, from that salt, it's gonna come out. It's gonna be divine. So, this is the tomato topping with the basil and salt and pepper. And like I said, you don't need anything else to it. And then now I'm going to plate it all up and show you how to assemble it, and I hope you enjoy this. And please, please, please don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to comment if you have any questions about the recipes that I'm making, or you know, thoughts, if you know something that you would like to do instead to the recipes. Please let me know. I would be glad to answer. Please do not be shy. All right, I am going to get it all plated, and I will be back then. So aside to our Parmesan crusted chicken breast, we are going to make a baby potato and pepper and onion. We're gonna roast them together, all together on a cookie sheet. I have a cookie sheet lined with foil, and it's a large one because this is for a few people, 2 clients. Okay, so you know, this is gonna give enough room for the peppers and the potatoes and the onions. I have 2 Vidalia onions, and I may need to use more, we'll see. So we're going to roast them all together on here, and you line the trick is, and you, I'm sure you know, is to line your pan with foil. And I use a non-stick so it doesn't stick to it too much, and you don't have to use too much oil. And we're gonna roast it at a 500-degree oven, preheated. So you may wanna start preheating it early on in your recipe, or you know, when you start making this, because it takes a while to preheat. So I already started slicing up some cubanelle and red bell peppers and some yellow bell pepper, and I'm going to show you how I do that in a little bit. But I want to explain to you these beautiful potatoes. So these are baby red skin potatoes, and these color ones here. You don't have to use colored at all. You can just use the red skin. Okay, so, or you can use a Yukon Gold. So I have the baby one, so I don't have to cut them, and I don't have to worry about peeling them. I just scrub them clean, and they are ready to go directly onto the pan. I may slice a few, so when I'm ready to plate, you know, I like the look of an inside. I'm going to show you. And here it goes rolling away from me. I like the inside of some of these potatoes, especially this purple ones. Look how beautiful they are. They just look so neat, so earthy, and just unique, and adds beautiful color to a plate. But again, you don't need to buy the color. You can just do baby red skins. You can also just do Yukon Gold, like I said. So if you buy the, you know, the potatoes could come into larger or the smaller, or fingerling potatoes. That's another good one too, I'm sorry. So you want to slice them into halves. It depends how big they are. About the size of the pepper. or into quarters. So really doesn't matter, but I kind of like the look of the long potato if you can, and the long pepper and onions. But with these, I chose a different shape because I like the different shapes is the circular. So these already go, and I may not use all of these. This is a lot for 3 to 7 people, but maybe not. So we'll see, I guess. So it just depends, you know, how much it looks like on the pan and stuff. So I'm going to show you these Cubanelle peppers, and I already started, like I said, slicing some peppers. I have Cubanelle peppers, which are a longer pepper. The flesh is thin and more fragile and is not thick, and it's going to roast much quicker. And the bell peppers, obviously, you know, are the standard peppers everyone uses, and they are thicker flesh. And I'm going to use the yellow ones as well. I have one orange one, and I will use it. Might as well. Extra color, extra vitamins, different vitamins, doesn't hurt. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to show you. I'm going to slice them into slices, and I'm going to show you with the different peppers here. The Cubanelle, you're going to cut them how you would a pepper normally, and then just make sure that the seeds are off and the rib. You're going to get that off for sure. And then since they are a longer and thinner pepper, you don't need to cut them this way. You want to cut them kind of at an angle. That way they become a longer slice of pepper, and then they match like a bell pepper then, the length of one. You know, they can match them. So that way you're not getting a short pepper to a long bell pepper. You know, you kind of want to keep it even. So the roasting and the baking in the oven looks about the same. So you cut them at an angle about 1/2 inch or a little more, like this. And I'm going to show you once I slice. I want to slice this bell pepper actually, and I want to show you the thickness of the flesh, the difference between the two. So with the bell peppers, you can just slice them this way. There you go. So then, I just want to show you the difference in the thinness and the thickness. Look at this bell pepper and look at the Cubanelle. You can tell that they are different in width, the thickness. So anyway, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish my peppers up first, and I'm going to use about, let's see, 2 to 5 Cubanelles and roughly 2, 4, 6 to 8 bell peppers. I guess once I start doing it and I'm putting them in a bowl, we'll see how much I have. Plus you have to remember you're also going to add the onions and the peppers, the potatoes. So all right, we're going to finish this up, and I will finish it up and I will get back to you. Okay, so I cut up the peppers and the onions, and I cut the onions into slices as well. So I just want to show you here what I did just to get an idea. I put it all in the pan, again lined with foil. It is the best thing ever. It won't ruin your pans, and it won't stick to the pan. And again, I'm using the non-stick foil. I just really like that because then I don't have to use as much oil, so it doesn't stick. And all these peppers and onions are so fragrant and freshly cut tasting and colorful. So now next is the potatoes, and I'm just going to, like I said, I might cut a few purple ones, but honestly I'm still debating if I want to. So I'm going to put a few on here. Maybe, since I did that one, I might just do a few purple ones, just for my own thing. A few purple reds, maybe one more yellow, and a few bigger reds because of my picture taking when I plate. So let's see, just a few. I always just take a few more extra in case, you know, the ones that I want might turn out. So this is a lot of potatoes, but it's actually more of a potato and then pepper and onion. So it'll roast because the oven is actually at a very high heat at 500, and we're gonna kind of toss it all together. So I'm gonna put salt and pepper and olive oil, extra virgin, and fresh parsley, chopped parsley and garlic. So let's see. Yeah, we'll do it like this. I was debating if I should separate it into two pans, but this is fine because we're gonna then toss it halfway through. So let me just put the pan this way just so I can slice my few. That was too small. Peppers and the onions look so good. Colorful. I just love color. So I'm going to slice a few of these potatoes and put them in. All right, just a few more. You know, this dish is actually, this whole meal is like, it's just an easy, quick weekday meal when I have events going on or just busy with family functions or church, or you know, I have a few different orders and my clients that I cook for. So I just kind of decided to just think of something that's quick and easy and tasty and simple, and that, you know, all my clients will like, including the kids. So this seems very simple and tasty, but when you do it yourself, you can always tweak it to what you want. I'm doing to what my clients like, and so I'm just making some room here. We're going to toss it all. So, all right, now I'm going to take some fresh parsley and we're going to chop that up. Just some sprigs. Doesn't have to be a lot. You don't even have to use parsley. You can use thyme. You can use basil, but basil is for the tomato and basil on the side, a little side of it. But the basil might burn in the oven, and I don't totally recommend it. But if you like, I mean, you can always toss it halfway through. But I like the parsley because it adds a little different flavor profile. It's just going to be a quick, rough chop. All right. Some fresh garlic. Oh, definitely a few cloves you'll need, that's for sure. So I'm going to use maybe 6 to 8 garlic cloves here. I don't recommend using garlic powder. I very seldom use it. I'll use garlic powder in marinades sometimes, or mix it in with fresh garlic. But for something like this, it's just, again, fresh is best. You want some good sizes. This is good. This is good. That equals about 1. Okay. So, you don't want it to be too overpowering, but the garlic is going to roast in there. Delicious. Add another flavor profile. Flavor. Herbs and garlic, salt and pepper. It's just so simple, but adds so much flavor. Different flavors if you add a variety of different herbs. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to the garlic. Just basically a really fine dice, mince type. So I'm going to show you here. You don't want to, you could use your garlic squeezer for this, but I kind of like the little pieces in it, just little. So you're going to slice it long ways. And watch your fingers. Then just a quick chop. You don't want it to be too chunky. So between a fine dice and a mince, a little closer to a dice. Garlic flying everywhere here. Smells so good. All right, so about like this. I'll show you here. And then just sprinkle it on. And I will finish that with the rest of the garlic. So this is the garlic on top of the potatoes and peppers and onions. Just looks beautiful with the parsley, the green. So now I am going to add some salt and pepper and olive oil, extra virgin, and a pinch of red pepper flakes. You can totally omit that, but if you add just a few pinches, it will not be spicy. But just be cautious of how much you add. You can add more if you like spicy. I personally do, but my clients do not, so I will not do that. So I will do that here, and I'm going to toss it up, and I will show it to you before we pop it in the preheated oven, 500. All right, so I tossed it all up after I liberally added some salt and pepper and olive oil and a pinch of red pepper flakes. You definitely want to salt the potatoes. Potatoes like salt. Obviously, there's a limit where it's too salty and your sodium is going to spike. But definitely potatoes like olive oil, but you don't want to drench it either. And they love salt and seasoning. So you definitely want to be liberal on that, but cautious at the same time. Now we're going to pop them in the oven at 500 for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to toss it gently halfway through. And then I'm going to finish them off for about another 10 to 12, 13 minutes till the potatoes are fork tender. And if you see that the peppers are browning too much, you can cover it lightly on the pepper side. I know there's a few on here and onions, and that's okay. But you can lightly cover it, tent it gently with a foil so they don't burn and crisp up, but they should be okay. Okay, so the potato and pepper and onion is out of the oven. It was about 25 minutes or so, 25 minutes. And so it all depends on your oven as well. And you want to get these nice char, look at these char marks here. And the potatoes are fork tender, you'll see here. And you can just I easily poked it through. And you get the nice char from the peppers and little edges there, and the onions, and the potatoes are a little crispy. So then when my clients are ready to eat it, they just quickly reheat it at a high temperature and they'll be perfect. And so they are, I wanted to get a small one here to try it. I love potatoes, peppers, and onions. So they'll eat it with the Parmesan crusted chicken and the tomato and basil. And this pepper and potato and onion roasted is a perfect complement to a side dish, to any dish. But it goes well with the Parmesan crusted chicken because it's a simple but yet tasty meal. The Parmesan cheese adds phenomenal flavor, saltiness, not quite cheesy, but a nice crust. And all of this with the fresh parsley and garlic, red pepper flakes, just mouth-watering. My mouth actually is watering, so I'm going to try it now. It's going to be extremely hot. Delicious. The peppers are nice char in the onion, and then the potatoes are creamy on the inside, and when you first take a bite, it has that little crunch from the skin. They are just phenomenal. And then if you want, you can always taste to see if you need a little bit more salt after they roast or not. So there you have it. And I'm going to show a plating of with the whole complete entree put together.